Now, recording in progress. Okay. Um, Hi, everyone. I am Beth Inglezos, and it's great to see all of you here. And thanks so much for joining us tonight. First of all, I wanted to introduce myself a bit as I haven't met everyone on this call, although I see so many familiar names and faces, and I love it. And I see so many new names and new faces, and I love that as well. I am the new executive director of the Jewish Community Foundation of Greater Mercer and started here back in June. Before joining the foundation, I spent a little over 2 years at Meals on Wheels of Mercer County. And prior to that, I was at Jewish Family and Children's Service for 17 years. I am so truly excited to be here and grateful to be back working in the Jewish community. If we haven't met, please feel free to reach out to me with any questions, any program ideas, or just to say hello. And that also goes for those of you who do know me. Secondly, I do want to thank both the Federation of Princeton Mercer Bucks and Mark Merkovitz, who we have here. Say hello.
Well,
Um, as well as the Federation of West Central. I'm not sure if we have anyone here from West Central. For both of you for sponsoring tonight's program. Your ongoing support is so greatly appreciated, and thank you. I also wanted to thank my small but very mighty staff, Justine Rubin and Stephanie Berger, for their help and for their technical support. I feel like I'm giving a thank you speech at the Oscars now. But anyway, so when I started looking for a topic for my first program here, Linda Mizell, who could not be on the call, who many of you know as the former executive director of the foundation, she suggested Rabbi Lewis. And that suggestion was seconded by none other than her mom, Nancy Lewis, who was on the call. Thank you, Nancy, the rabbi's mom. And so thanks to Linda and Nancy as well. Um, so after some research and thought on what the topic should be, I saw an article written by Rabbi Lewis called I'm going to try this, Rabbi Lewis. What is my Shelihut? Thank you. What is my meaning? And we all thought that this would be a great pre-holiday program. Well, it turns out we all get pretty busy before the holidays. And before we knew it, the program was scheduled for after the holidays. But in hindsight, I actually think this was a better time for the program. Um, and as we are coming out of the holidays, I guess you would say, and we enter into a new year, we get to reflect, we get to pause, we get to refresh and reconnect, sort of like what I think of as a do-over for the new year, a sort of a spiritual do-over. So I'd like to introduce Rabbi Lewis first by telling you a bit more about her. Um, Rabbi Annie Lewis is a poet, an organizer, a singer, a creator of original Jewish music and ritual, and teacher of heart-centered Torah. She serves as Director of Admissions for Religious and Educational Leadership and Assistant Dean for the Rabbinical School of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. Rabbi Lewis has led vibrant congregations in Maryland, Mississippi, and Philadelphia, where she studied couples and family therapy and trained rabbinical students at the Reconstructionist Rabbinical College. For the past 2 seasons, she has led high holiday services with the Romemu Brooklyn community, and she lives in Crown Heights, Brooklyn, with her partner, Rabbi Yosef Goldman, and their 2 children. Remind me how old they are, Rabbi Lewis?
sure. Our daughter Zohar is 10 and our son Shir is 7. You may hear them on the call tonight. So um, uh,
Wonderful. So again, Rabbi Lewis, please take it away.
thank you so much, Beth and Justine and Stephanie. And thank you to the Jewish Community Foundation of Greater Mercer. It's really a blessing to be able to spend this time with you tonight. And it actually is a holiday. We are celebrating Rosh Chodesh, the new month of Cheshvan, the month that comes after all of the holidays. And it's a time of deep spiritual importance for thinking about how we integrate all of the work that we've done in the very full festival season month of Tishrei. So it's really wonderful to be here with so many from the community where I was raised and that inspired me on my path in the world and in Jewish leadership. I'm so grateful to be with you all tonight and to explore this topic together. So I'm going to share some slides that will I hope help to lift up some of the things that we'll be talking about tonight. And I really also want to encourage your participation. There'll be some moments where I'm going to invite you to put things into the chat or prompts and questions for you to think about or reflect on. If you have paper and pen near you, or you want to take some of your own notes, I hope that everyone will emerge from this with a little nugget of something you can take with you into this new year, into this new month of Cheshvan. So I'm going to go ahead and share my slides. We'll just get into present mode. Okay, wonderful. So the topic tonight is asking this question of what is your Shelihut? What is your purpose? And we'll talk a little, what is your mission and assignment? And we'll talk a little bit more about this word and what it means and where it comes from. But I do want to begin with a song, with a prayer, which is the first thing our rabbis say instruct us to say when we wake up in the morning, the prayer Modeh Ani. So I'm going to chant a little bit for you and translate the prayer, and then we'll talk about it. So Modeh Ani lefanecha melech chai v'kayam. Modeh Ani lefanecha ruach chai v'kayam shechezarta bi nishmati v'chemla ba'emunatecha shechezarta bi nishmati v'chemla ba'emunatecha. The words of this prayer can be translated as, I am thankful before you, living and enduring sovereign or spirit, for you have restored my soul to me with compassion. And we say, Rabba emunatecha, your faith in me is great. So every morning, our tradition gives us a way to begin our day by acknowledging that we have a reason for being here in this world, that God's faith in us is great and expansive, that we can do something that matters, that will make a difference, that will bring goodness, that will bring healing. Our rabbis, our tradition teaches that each and every day, each moment that we are gifted with on this planet is a gift. And so I wanted to begin by asking you to put some things in the chat. These are two questions that I've turned to in work in community building and community organizing and working with folks to think about what is your passion? What are your multiple passions? What is your purpose? And these two questions are, what gets you up in the morning and what keeps you up at night? So we'll just start with that first question. If you want to put one word or a phrase into the chat, what gets you up in the morning? Oops. And I'm not sure if folks are folks able to post in
The
the
chat is disabled.
Oh, okay, that's okay. So you know what? If you would like to, you are welcome to call out. If there's something that gets you up in the morning that you want to share with the group. And I'll come back to the screen share in just a second. Okay, and if not, no problem. It could be something that you think about. Maybe it's your cat coming into your room, or your pets, or family, or children, or some work that you have to do that day professionally, or volunteering. Oh, okay, here we go. We have some chats coming in. All right. The state of the country right now, right, is something that gets you up in the morning with purpose, and something that keeps you up at night. Yes, work and coffee. Thank God for coffee. Absolutely. Great. So we'll come back to these questions. I'm gonna bring the screen share back, and hopefully I can do that. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Walking the dog. The sun, knowing I can do some good for our Jewish community. Yeah, thank you, Michael and Mark and Evie and Beth and Reba, my grandkids. Okay, great. So you're welcome to keep, putting these in as we go through, and I will see if I can get the share back. You know what? All right, now. I just lost my screen share, so we're going to get it back. Here we go. Okay. All right. Beautiful. So we're back. So these are some questions that can help with the exploration. How can I be of service? What is my Shelihut? What is my assignment for this life, for this moment, for this singular body, for this singular soul? Each and every one of us are created in the image of God. Each and every one of us is entirely unique, and each of us has things to offer that only we can offer to the people with whom we're close, to this world upon which we walk. Okay, so I also wanted to talk for a minute about this idea of the word Shelihut. It is a Hebrew word, and it comes from the Hebrew root word that means to send. And some of you may have heard the word in the context of often when we bring Israelis through the Jewish Agency to serve our communities in America, they're called shlichim. They are doing a shlichut. They are sent over to our country to tell their stories, to build relationships. Where I live in Crown Heights, which is I think part of the reason why I started to get interested in this concept. The Lubavitcher Rebbe, the last Lubavitcher Rebbe had what he called shluchim, emissaries, messengers, who he tasked with going all over the world and building Jewish life and helping people do mitzvot and add holiness to their lives. So I've heard it in those different contexts. In Jewish law, there's a concept of a shaliach, is someone who has the agency to do a mitzvah, to do something on behalf of another person, and it's a legal term. And Justine was actually reminding me earlier when we were talking that sometimes in Israel, in contemporary culture, it can even be the person who brings your pizza, right? In modern Hebrew as well. But it's someone who is, right, dispatched or sent out with a purpose, with a mission. Another, linguistic connection on Purim, we give mishloach manot, our little packages that we give that are sent and distributed to our friends to bring joy. So I want tell 3 stories of people whose lives I intersected with. 2 people I had the blessing of meeting this year. One I just read about and was really taken by his story. 3 people who found their Shelihut in the world, and their stories are a little bit different. Just like each one of us will have our own story. So I want to tell you a little bit about them. The first person I did not get to meet, but his name was Al Fasnacht. Not entirely sure how to pronounce his last name, but over the summer, my parents celebrated their 50th anniversary, Mazel Tov, and our family took a trip to Rehoboth Beach. And we took our kids, my children and my niece, to a place called Funland where there were rides. And I noticed that there was a beautiful memorial board up honoring the memory of Al, who had died earlier in the year, in the spring, at the age of 96. And his family had taken over the boardwalk that became Funland in 1962. And Al found his calling. Guests would return year after year to see him. He knew that the park had an important purpose in the world. He believed that having fun with family and friends is not frivolous. It's a gift and something to be cherished. And he brought smiles and conversation and kindness to all who came. And he had a mantra, which was, Funland doesn't need me. I need Funland, right? And even up until age 96, he was there. He would paint a bench. He would make a repair. He would do what needed to be done. He found his purpose, and he brought a lot of joy to a lot of people. Dignity and connection through simple acts each and every day, and sort of creating this holy space of joy and of connection for people. So that's Al, and that was his Shelihut. And the next person I want to introduce you to is Amit Bar. Amit is a 24-year-old young man who is a former soldier in the IDF. In December 2023, Amit was injured in Gaza in the war, and he lost his leg. I met Amit through my work at JTS. Recently, JTS began a program, an MFA in creative writing, and the director of the program is an Israeli author named Edgar Keret. And Amit is a beautiful writer. And when Amit had been injured and was rehabilitating in the hospital for a number of months, he wrote to Edgar Keret, and the two connected, and together they wrote Amit's story. And so fast forward a number of years, Edgar Keret was presenting at JTS, and Amit was brought to America to a very special hospital to help him get a new prosthetic so that he could run again. And Amit showed up at JTS. I was sitting at a table with merch and brochures about all the different schools and programs that we have. And he approached the table with his brother and he said, tell me about the conservative movement. He said, I've never met conservative Jews. Tell me about JTS. He just was so curious and just had this beautiful smile, and we began talking. And then he told me he was going around to different places in the city telling his story to communities. And so I said, great, let's come back to JTS and share your story. So he shared his story with us of his incredible resilience of having to, his whole life was changed, and having to rediscover his purpose and figure out just even physically how to get up, how to get out of bed, and what his life would be about after this injury. And one thing that he said, was, it's just a leg. The most important thing is being alive. And so I wanted to share, Amit also is very funny. He has a social media following. You can also find what he shares and his story. But he created this video. He told us in his presentation, he said, I want to introduce you to my new girlfriend, which is, as you'll see from this video, his prosthetic leg. He, was able to laugh about it, was able to say, okay, I need to figure out how to live under these new circumstances. And so he created this video, which is a love song to his leg. So I want to show you this video of Amit. We'll hopefully be able to make it work. Okay, we'll make it bigger. We'll get the music on.
סוחף אותנו ניסה, אין לדעת לאן הולך אורכו של המסע, וכשנגיע אומר בוודאי, זו הנסיעה של חיי. גשר מזהב סלול לליבך, מחבר את שנינו בחוק השלמך, ברוחות הכוס ופות וגשמים, אני צמוד אליי, עול מעולמי. סוחב אותנו ייסע, אין לדעת לאן הולך אורכו של המסע, וכשנגיע אומר בוודאי, זו הנסיעה של חיי. לא יפריד דבר בינינו לעד, גם אם העולם יתפסק ביום אחד, מקומי תמיד יהיה לצידך, לאורך כל הדרך אני
He says, to new beginnings, להתחלות חדשות ברגל ימין, with my right leg. So, says, I love you. Okay. So I wanted to, share Amit's story with you. After this experience, he also said he's committed. He wants to become a diplomat. He wants to be someone who's able to make peace between Israel and represent Israel in the world. And just thinking about Amit and so many others who've suffered, who've been injured, who are in recovery from so much trauma over the past very excruciating few years. But also Amit just gives me great hope, meeting him and seeing how he experiences his Shelihut in the world. Are folks able to see the screen share at this point, or did it come back? Okay, the slides are there. Okay, so
It's still the video.
oh, it's still the video. Okay,
Yeah.
great. You know what? I'm just gonna go back and we'll just reload. No problem. All right. Okay.
Yep.
Now the slides are back. Okay, great. So, oh, I'm gonna go backwards. I have to, can I go back? No. Oh yeah, okay. So, great. So the next person I wanted to share their story is, her name is Adma Ba. So there's a picture of Amit kayaking, on the other side is Al, and then in the middle is Adma. She is a woman I met also through my work at JTS. We take our students to volunteer with different organizations in the city, and Adma founded an organization called Africana. She helps asylum seekers in New York City. She came to this country from Guinea when she was 2 years old. And when she was 16, she was detained for 6 months and accused of terrorism, which were sort of false charges. But she lived through that experience. She was able to get out of that. And then she's committed herself to creating a safe home for refugees, for asylum seekers, in particular those who are coming from Africa. And so she founded Africana, and it's a place where people can come and just be treated with dignity. It's a place where people can come and get their mail, because often that's really a struggle if people don't have a home or a place to receive mail as they're trying to get things in order, get their papers in order with immigration and to be able to find work. And so Adma, she just radiates this fierce loving kindness and sense of purpose. And it's been really amazing going with our students, sweeping the parking lot, sorting the mail, doing what we can to support her holy work in New York City, so that we can extend that hachnasat orchim, that value of hospitality, to our neighbors. So I just wanted to lift up these 3 stories of folks in our time and the way they have found their assignment, the way they have found their Shelihut, their unique mission in the world. And just want to pose 3 questions as we move forward. Those are questions, for each one of us to ask ourselves, maybe in the morning, maybe at night, maybe over a meal. What is my Shelihut? How can I be of service? What is my assignment for this life, for this moment, for this body, for this soul? And these are big questions, and they are questions whose answers evolve and shift throughout our lives. I think Shelihut is not always, it's not something that's fixed. It's something that evolves as we become who we are becoming in the world. So now I want to rewind and go into some texts from our Torah to engage a bit with some of our heroes from our scripture, from Torah and from the Megillah. And one of the things that I love the most about Judaism, about our sacred stories, is that our heroes are so very human, and they're all flawed and complicated and wrestling and trying to figure out, who they are in the world and how to show up and making mistakes and bouncing back and finding a way forward. So I want to point to Abraham, Moses, Moshe, and Esther as 3 models of biblical characters who discovered their Shelihut, their purpose in the world. And maybe they can be inspirations for us as well as we are seeking out, what is the next right thing? What's our next move? How do we want to be of service? Okay, so Abraham, I think the qualities of his Shelihut, get curious and be a blessing. Get curious and be a blessing. So Abraham is called in the Torah, not this week, but next week on Shabbat, we'll read Parshat Lech Lecha, and he gets this instruction from God, Lech Lecha, right? Go forth, Lecha, to yourself, and leave your homeland, leave the place of your birth, leave your family, and go to this place that I will show you. God sends Abraham into the unknown to found the Jewish people, and gives Abraham also the instruction, the command, or maybe the promise, or maybe a little bit of each, right? V'hieh bracha, be a blessing, become a blessing. So our rabbis, our sages, are very curious, because we don't have much backstory about Abraham, right? This is kind of the opening scene in his story. We get a little bit of genealogy before, but this is the opening moment where God calls him. And so our rabbis wonder, why Abraham? What was it about him why did God choose him for this particular mission, for this particular Shelihut. And I think one of the reasons that we learn in the Midrash is that Abraham had, right, a keen sense of curiosity. There is a Midrash, a story, a parable that compares Abraham to a person who was traveling from place to place when he came upon a palace that was illuminated or in flames. So the Hebrew word there is bira doleket, and it's a little bit ambiguous. Is the palace glowing with radiance and with beauty, or is it on fire? And Abraham asks a question in that moment. He says, who's in charge? Does this palace lack a caretaker? And maybe he's asking it in the sense of who created such beauty, or maybe he's asking it in the sense of who is in charge here, who can put out these flames. And our rabbis say that is because of that curiosity and that noticing that Abraham did, that opened the doorway for God to meet Abraham and say, hi, it's me, I'm the caretaker of the palace, and you are going to be my partner in this work. And Abraham, something shifts in his story, right? God says to him, be a blessing. And he is the first person in the Torah, according to Rashi, according to our commentators, who has the power to share blessing with others. Before Abraham came into the picture, God directly gave blessing to Adam, directly gave blessing to Noah. But from Abraham forward, people will have that power to give blessing to others, to be agents, right? To be shlichim of God's blessing in the world, to be emissaries, to bring that blessing to others and to use it for good and to use it in different ways. Rabbi Hanan Schlesinger talks about what it means to be a blessing, right? Because I think we can have a lot of different interpretations about that. Certainly, I think that Al, who we talked about before, and Adma and Amit are blessings in that they give blessing to others, or gave blessing to others through their actions, through their presence, through their work. And what Hanan Schlesinger says is, blessings are not meant to flow into us, but rather to flow through us. He talks about the Kabbalistic myth of the creation of the world and this idea of God, pouring God's presence and light and blessings into vessels that were sealed on the end, and the vessels couldn't contain the blessing, right? And they shattered. And the Kabbalists teach it's our job to gather those sacred fragments, to gather the sparks of divine light in the world, and to find them and recover them and bring healing. And Rabbi Schlesinger says, part of the way we do that is that we create an opening for blessing to flow through us as we receive blessing, as we notice blessing, as we wake up in the morning and say, Moda Ani, we think about how we then become a vessel, become a conduit of that blessing in the world. So from Avram's story, I believe we can learn to get curious, to notice what's broken, to notice what's burning, and to notice what's beautiful, and to become a blessing, to become open for blessing to flow into us and flow from us. And those are lessons from Abraham's model of Shelihut. So as we think how we might become like Abraham, just want to pose two more questions for you to reflect on, for you to think about. What is a question you have about the world right now? Something that sparks your curiosity. What have you noticed that needs attention? And it can be in a personal realm, in a family realm, a local community realm, our country, Jewish peoplehood more globally. What have you noticed that needs attention? And what are you curious about? What's a question that you have? And these can be beginnings for discovering our Shelihut. Next, we're going to talk about Moses. We just finished the Torah on Simchas Torah, and we were with a minion in Brooklyn called Prospect Heights Shul, and there was this wonderful Torah reader named Or, and he was reading the end of the Torah when Moses dies, and when we say never was or will there ever be a prophet like Moses. And it was just the most beautiful thing. He was crying as he was reading it, and we just we're all feeling it in the room, right? Just the pathos of finishing this story and then opening it again, and that the story evolves, that the Torah evolves each time we read it as our lives shift and change. And so the lesson that I want to lift up from Moshe's Shelihut is this verse from Torah: I am becoming who I am becoming. So if we remember, God calls Moses at Moses is a shepherd, right? He's fled. He grew up in the palace of Pharaoh, and he sort of has multiple identities. He flees. He's in Midian. He's a shepherd, and then he sees a bush. He notices, just like Abraham has that curiosity, that ability to notice. So too with Moshe. There's he turns to look at this strange, curious sight of a bush that's burning, that is not being consumed, and then God reveals God's self to Moses. God calls Moses by name. Moses says, I'm here. And God says to Moses, the cry of the Israelites has reached me, right? I see how they are oppressed by the Egyptians. And God says to Moses, come, I will send you to Pharaoh, and you shall free my people, the Israelites, from Egypt. And so this root word of Shelihut is in this verse in the book of Exodus. Ve'ata lecha ve'eshlachacha el paro. I'm going to send you. You are my emissary, Moshe. And so Rabbi Joseph Soloveitchik says, right, this is the moment. This is the paradigm for Shelihut, when God makes Moses God's emissary to do this work of freeing the people. It's like, Moses, you are my emissary, because God can't do the work alone. God needs human partnership to ensure that the people are able to go free. And so it's a powerful moment. And Moshe, if we remember, he's not like, yes, I accept the mission. All right, let's do this. Moshe, like many of our prophets, is reluctant. He says, I don't know about this, God, right? I'm slow of speech. I don't know if this is for me. And he asks the question, he says, Mi anochi, who am I? Who am I to do this, right? Who am I to go to Pharaoh, to free the Israelites from Egypt? And God promises Moshe, I will be with you, right? You will not be alone. You don't have to do this alone. And then Moses says, but wait, I'm going to go to the Israelites, to say I'm your leader now. I'm going to do this work. We're going to go free. But they're going to say, who sent you? How are they going to react when I come to them? And this is, I think, like one of the most marvelous verses in the whole Torah. God says to Moses, you're going to, when the people ask Moses, who sent you? God says to Moses, Ehyeh asher ehyeh. Thus shall you say to the Israelites, Ehyeh sent me to you. So God is naming God's self, Ehyeh asher ehyeh, which means I am becoming who I am becoming. So that is the name of God, that God introduces God's self to Moses and says, this is the side of me that's going to partner with you in this liberation journey. I am becoming that which I am becoming. And so too you, Moshe, who are made in my image, you are becoming who you are becoming. And this is just right, the text. Sorry, I missed switching the slide a little bit earlier, but just this incredible name of God, Ehyeh asher ehyeh. Ehyeh sent me to you. So what can we learn from Moshe's Shelihut, from Moshe's call? I think number one, you don't have to feel ready, right? You can have doubts. That doesn't disqualify you from taking something on. Number two, you are not alone in this work. You are working on behalf of others, on behalf of the Holy One who gave you a life that is ever unfolding, right? And your Shelihut too will evolve as you become who you are becoming. So Shelihut is not something static. It's something that is dynamic, as the breath that flows through us. And so just two questions to think about in becoming like Moses, in this Moses model of Shelihut. And the first is, what gets in the way to answering the call? And the call can be many things, but what are the barriers when you maybe have felt called to do something? What gets in the way? And the second question is, who will be with you on the journey? Who are your partners? Who are your supports? What gets in the way to answering the call, and who will be with you on the journey? Okay, and finally, I want to talk for a few moments about Esther, Queen Esther, who was really made for the moment that she was in. There's an incredible line in the Megillah when Mordechai approaches Esther, who has married the king, who's in the palace, who's learned of Haman's evil decree to annihilate the Jewish people, and is trying to figure out how she can respond in this moment, and what power she has to act. Her uncle Mordechai comes to her and says, Esther, relief and deliverance will come to the Jewish people eventually, right? If you don't take this on. But who knows? Perhaps you have been put in this royal position for just such a crisis, for just such a moment. Umi yodea im le'et kazot higat lamalchut. Who knows? Maybe it is for exactly this moment that you have arrived in your royal position. And I think, for each one of us too, as we model ourselves after Esther, we don't have a choice about when we're born and when we live. And we are in this generation with all of its blessings and with all of its really intense challenges for the Jewish people, for our planet, for our country. We didn't choose to be born in this time, but here we are. And what is our capacity to make a difference? What are we uniquely situated to do with what we have? So I want to share this really beautiful quote from the Israeli writer Amos Oz. And I learned of this when one of my colleagues at JTS, Rabbi Stephanie Ruskay, gave all of the folks on our team a little pin of a teaspoon, a little pewter teaspoon to wear. So she would clip it on her lapel, and we've been wearing these teaspoons, and I'll read this passage and you'll see why. So Amos Oz writes, I believe that if one person is watching a huge calamity, let's say a conflagration, a fire, there are always three principal options. One, run away, as far away and as fast as you can, and let those who cannot run burn. Number two, write a very angry letter to the editor of your paper demanding that the responsible people be removed from office with disgrace, or for that matter, launch a demonstration. Number three, bring a bucket of water and throw it on the fire. And if you don't have a bucket, bring a glass. And if you don't have a glass, use a teaspoon. Everyone has a teaspoon. And yes, I know a teaspoon is little and the fire is huge, but there are millions of us, and each one of us has a teaspoon. So my beloved colleague, Rabbi Ruskay, wanted to remind us, in every moment to think about what is our teaspoon. There was a young man in South Africa, Nkosi Johnson, who was born with HIV. He died of AIDS at age 11. He became an advocate for children and for people living with HIV and AIDS in South Africa. And he had this beautiful quote, this beautiful invitation to Shelihut. He said, do all you can with what you have, in the time you have, in the place you are. Do all you can with what you have, in the time you have, in the place you are. And he was inviting us to figure out, what is our teaspoon? Maybe we have a teaspoon. Maybe we have a glass. Maybe we have a bucket, right? We have a community of people around us who can do good in the world. And I know that the Jewish Community Foundation of Greater Mercer, right? All of you, you're doing good in the community already. And how can you do more of that? What's the next step? So becoming like Esther's Shelihut. What can you do right now where you are with what you have, with the time, with the treasure, with the talents, with the resources? What is one thing you can do right now where you are with what you have? What is your teaspoon? And we spoke tonight about Adama Ba, who founded Africana to care for asylum seekers in Harlem. We spoke about Al Fasnacht, who created a sacred sanctuary of play and fun and connection in the world in Rehoboth at Funland. We spoke about Amit Bar, who had to redesign his whole life after a devastating injury and loss, and who is committed to creating a future of peace. And so each one of you has your own Shelihut. So you don't have to be like Adama or Al or Amit or Moses or Abraham or Esther. I wanted to share a Hasidic parable that I really love. So it's a story that's told about Reb Zusha, a great Hasidic master. And as Zusha neared the end of his life, he lay crying on his deathbed. And his students gathered around him and they said, Rebbe, why are you so sad? After all of the mitzvot, all of the good deeds you've done, you will surely get a great reward in heaven. And Zusha said, I'm afraid because when I get to heaven, I know God is not going to ask me, why weren't you more like Abraham? Or why weren't you more like Moses? I'm afraid that God will ask, Zusha, why weren't you more like Zusha? And then, what will I say? And that is a life's work for all of us, right? Figuring out who we are and who we are becoming and who is the true self, or what version of ourself and inner voice can we tune into that we want to express in the world. That is really hard work. So don't take it lightly, but I wanted to share this parable about Reb Zusha. And as Dr. Seuss wrote, today you are you, that is truer than true. There was no one alive who is youer than you. And so as you think about your Shelihut as well, just one other resource, secular resource I thought that was interesting was a book called Designing Your Life, How to Build a Well-Lived, Joyful Life by Bill Burnett and Dave Evans. And so they are part of the design school at Stanford University. And so they sort of use that design process to help people ask questions and think about how to create a life of purpose, a life of connection. And one of the things that they said, which I thought was really interesting, is that people don't know their, often, we might ask someone, what is your passion? But we don't always know. And so in the design school, they talk a lot about prototyping, right? It's like we have to experiment. We have to try different things on because it's not something that we know off the bat. What is our purpose, or what is our Shelihut, or what are our passions? But they really encourage playing and prototyping and experimenting and trying new things. And they write, a well-designed life is a life that makes sense. It's a life in which who you are, what you believe, and what you do all line up together. So we're, coming to the end of the presentation. And so I just want to pose a few more questions as we're coming out of this for you to take with you as you're thinking about these different models of Shelihut. What sparks your curiosity? What are you being called to do? And who is calling? How can you contribute right here, right now? And what would being fully you look like? What would it look like to be fully you? What sparks your curiosity? What are you being called to do? And who is calling? How can you contribute right here, right now? And what would being fully you look like? I just want to offer you, as you do this holy work of asking these questions, you shall be a blessing. Just offer this to you as a divine promise that we've inherited through our ancestors. And I know that many of you are already a blessing in so many ways in the world. So I just want to extend this blessing to you. I will sing and then we'll open up for some questions before we close. Lechi lach, to a land that I will show you. Lech lecha, to a place you do not know. Lechi lach, on your journey I will bless you, and you shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. Lechi lach. So each and every one of you is a blessing, and I look forward to the ways you will continue to be blessings and the way that will unfold for each and every one of you. So happy for the last few minutes. If anyone has any reactions or questions, if you want to put it in the chat or you can unmute.
Thank you very much. This was a beautiful program. I really, really loved it. And thank you, everybody who planned it. It was great.
Thank you, Reba. Thanks for being here. Rini, yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to say the same thing. This was wonderful and very inspiring. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Debbie. Yeah, and if anyone has, I'm curious, like if there was a part of this that stuck with you, a question you might take with you, or one of the models of Shelihut that you want to hold on to. I saw Arlene. Yeah, hi.
Annie, I just want to thank you. This was lovely. And I think it gives all of us reason to think about who we are and will be.
Thank you.
Hi, Annie.
Hi, Lisa.
I just wanted to tell you this was absolutely beautiful, and I'm so glad I was with you to share in
Thank
this.
you. I'm so
was
glad you're here
beautiful.
too. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I want to thank everyone. I will share that one part that really stands out for me is, I think it was Zusha, how I think it's so important for all of us to realize that we shouldn't expect to make change of like epic or, no pun intended, like biblical proportion, right? We should each do what we're capable of doing. And I think sometimes we forget that and we sort of feel, well, if I can't do something big, go big or go home. But if you can't go big, go small. It's a small step.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you,
I'm so
Rabbi
glad.
Lewis. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Just a few quick parting words. We will send out the recording, and along with the slides, I believe.
Okay.
Is that correct? We would love to have that also. Um, And then we hope you join us for the next Jewish Community Foundation program, which will be in person with Dr. Benjamin Dworkin, who is a great speaker and a brilliant mind from the Rowan University Institute, of Public Policy and Citizenship. That's long. It will be on November 16th at 1 o'clock at the Jewish Center. And the topic is Election Reflections for the Jewish Community. And will include a flyer with a follow-up email. Again, we also always encourage you to take a look at our website. Again, my offer still stands. If you have any questions, suggestions, or just want to say hello, meet me for coffee. And that goes out to all of you who I know and who I don't know, would love to meet you. And again, thank you so much for joining us tonight, and have a wonderful evening. And a huge thanks to Rabbi Lewis. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. Take good care.
Have a
Thank
good
you,
night.
Annie. Thank you, Annie.